Hello and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I'm your host, Steve Albertini, and this is the Best Effin' Fantasy Show live from the basement, Week 13 edition. Joined by my producer, Nick Specca, and my senior fantasy analysts, Carmen Del Mastro and Jerry Procopio. Boys, it is the Thanksgiving edition.
It's my favorite time.
Every year, we got to tell the people what we're thankful for in the world of fantasy football. Nick, why don't you start us off? You're doing well in a lot of leagues.
You know what? I thought about this last night. I wonder if is he going to ask me, Steve? I'm like, yeah, he's going to ask me. So I have a few people I want to personally thank this year. I want to thank Doug Martin. I want to thank David Wilson. I want to thank Miles Austin. I want to thank Reggie Wayne.
Keep going.
I want to thank Steven Jackson. I want to thank Mike James.
And yet somehow
I'm in second place right now.
Pulled it together.
It's unbelievable.
And you're still in second place. So you should really be thanking guys like Brandon Marshall,
Andre Brown, Nate Burleson,
Nasty Nate Burleson, creeping back,
Fred Jackson, Danny Woodhead. I think
Thank you.
You guys
turkey to Danny Woodhead.
I think you guys owe him an apology and me for cutting that segment out. I'm done. I'm done. I'm sorry.
I don't edit.
For your Woodhead insight.
Yeah, I got laughed at.
At the time, it was a joke.
It was not a joke.
It's not a joke.
Nobody said Danny Woodhead seriously.
I took him. That's why I drafted him.
The man took him seriously.
Tom Brady loved him.
Second place.
Yep.
They were going to use
There
him.
it is. What about you guys? What are we thankful for?
Who was the Chiefs starting quarterback 2 years ago when we did this segment?
Oh,
Falco?
Shane Falco.
Shane
Falco.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for Shane Falco again. And his luscious locks.
What about you, J Pro?
I don't know how I could top that. I guess I'm thankful for Matt Forte. He's second in points. I reached for him in a few leagues over some other people.
I thought you said you were
Second in points among running backs. Had a lot of high hopes. He's killing it this year. So
I'm thankful for Aaron Rodgers' mustache. When we were talking about hair, that thing was glorious on the sideline last week. But anyway, let's get right into it. It's Thanksgiving week, as is tradition. 3 NFL games on Thursday. Kicking it off with Green Bay traveling to Detroit. Obviously, not a Thanksgiving without some Detroit Lions football. Big story here still, Aaron Rodgers not likely to play this week. Hopefully have him back after that 10-day rest period for Week 14. So enter Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn signed a little over a week ago, got into the game last week against Minnesota, erased a 16-point deficit, went 21 of 36, 218 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. Unfortunately, it ended in a tie. But, guys, Matt Flynn getting the ball this week against the team he once threw 6 touchdowns against.
that's right.
Flynn.
No, I can't.
Seems like a lifetime ago, but what do you guys? What's the outlook for Matt Flynn this week in a short week at Detroit on Thanksgiving?
I'm in favor of Matt Flynn this week. He knows the system. He came in, rallied the troops this past week. They came up short, but they still rallied the troops. You know, I'm a fan of Flynn moving forward. The Lions have been struggling in the secondary. Why not, if you're desperate at quarterback, if you have some injuries, give Matt Flynn a spot start. You don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah, I like Matt Flynn this week. It's going to be a high-scoring game, 2 high-potent offenses. Mike Lennon had 247 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions against Detroit last week. So I think Matt Flynn could have a big game.
Maybe it's a week where, if you're an RG3 owner and you don't know what the hell's happening with him, you might want to throw in Matt Flynn.
I'll tell you what's happening.
We'll get to RG3 a little bit later. The second game in Dallas, the Oakland Raiders travel to take on the Cowboys. Word out of Oakland is that even if Darren McFadden plays, he'll only be spelling Rashad Jennings, so don't look for any backfield timeshare in Oakland, guys. But in this particular matchup, I want to talk about the running backs. Who do you think is going to have a better game? DeMarco Murray, who had 86 yards on the ground last week against the Giants, or Rashad Jennings, who played really well in McFadden's absence?
I'm going with Rashad Jennings. It's another plus matchup for him against the Cowboys, who give up the most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So we're going to keep rolling with the hot hand and keep starting Rashad Jennings.
Can't argue with that.
In the nightcap on NFL Network, Pittsburgh travels to Baltimore in a AFC North rivalry. Which big time wide receiver is going to have the better game here? Torrey Smith, who only had 2 catches for 74 yards last week against the Jets, or Antonio Brown, who against all odds, and Joe Hayden had 6 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown last week, leads the NFL in receptions.
I'm going to go Antonio Brown. You got to ride the hot hand here.
It's all about the hot hand this week.
Fast forward to Sunday, full docket of games, no bye weeks this week, as it is for the rest of the year. In the 1 o'clock games, Arizona travels cross country to take on the red-hot Nick Foles and the Philadelphia Eagles. Foles with the highest passer rating in the NFL among qualified passers with 128.0 rating. Is this the week where Nick Foles falls down to earth a little bit?
I think he does. Arizona's defense has been very stout, turned the ball over. I think he struggles this week.
I mean, Chip Kelly, he gets the whole week coming out of the bye. You would figure film study, they have something on the Cardinals defense, but the Cardinals defense has been stout. Another thing I just want to mention is Larry Fitzgerald, who notoriously kills the Eagles. He's played 5 career games against the Eagles, and his stat line reads 35 catches, 545 yards, and 9 touchdowns. That's absolutely absurd. So Larry Fitzgerald owners, feel free, plug him in your lineup. Expect another hot week. Once again, hot hand.
Again, horrible nightmares of the 2008 NFC Championship.
3 touchdowns.
And another thing to point out, Arizona's defensive coordinator is Todd Bowles, who was the Eagles' defensive coordinator last year.
Yeah.
So you'd like to think he
has a little grudge.
Has a little grudge, and he has some knowledge of the Eagles' skill position players a little more than some other guys might. You know, Carmi talked about Fitz. He is hot right now. 5 for 52 and two touchdowns last week, and Michael Floyd been tearing it up the last couple weeks as well. 7 for 104 last week. A week after he had 190 plus yards. Jared, do you agree with Kwame? Think they continue their November tear against the Eagles?
Absolutely. Eagles defense is nothing special. Fitz and Floyd both have big games.
Jacksonville travels to Cleveland, and the big story here is Josh Gordon, 14 catches, 237 yards and a touchdown last week. Really impressive, and to be honest, he's been one of the most exciting and consistent wide receivers in the NFL all season. Where do you rank him right now? If we were to redraft today, where would you put Josh Gordon among the other stud receivers?
I would put him right after the top 5. After Calvin, Dez, AJ.
He's top 8 for me.
Demarius.
He's in the top 8 for me. So I would probably agree with you.
Brandon
also.
Marshall. You know?
Brandon Marshall. Right after that,
Julio.
5. Right after Julio. Probably 6, 7.
Can't argue with that. Maurice Jones-Drew, 84 yards and a touchdown.
He's
last
back.
week. Is he back? He's starting Mojo with confidence this week at Cleveland?
I'm starting him. It's another hot hand guy. They're giving him the rock. What's it? I think it's been 4 consecutive weeks he's scored a touchdown, and they're getting him more involved in the passing game. That's what we thought Mojo was going to be from the beginning of the year. That's why a lot of people spent high draft picks on him. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case earlier in the season. If you held on to him, paying dividends for you right now, if you were lucky enough.
Tennessee travels to Indianapolis, fresh off getting beat down in Arizona, 40-11. The Colts at 7-4, coming home, playing the Titans, who they played a couple weeks ago on Thursday Night Football. Andrew Luck have a bounce back game this week against that Titans defense?
I'm not so sure. The Tennessee Titans, they've been tops in the league against the pass all season, so we'll see if that trend continues this week. One stat to look at is their production against opposing running backs, though. They do give up the 3rd most to opposing running backs, so we'll see if Trent Richardson and Donald Brown can get it going on the ground a little bit more this week.
Yeah, hopefully they do.
Chicago travels to Minnesota, NFC North showdown. Still no Cutler for the Chicago Bears, but even though they lost last week in St. Louis, offense has been performing really well. Brandon Marshall hasn't been hurt by Cutler's absence whatsoever. Last week, St. Louis gashed the Bears defense, 258 yards on the ground. Adrian Peterson over-under, 150 yards this week.
Absolutely over.
152. And 2 touchdowns.
I say 187 and 3 touchdowns.
The Bears defense, they're just dismantled up front.
They're awful.
A lot of injuries up front for them. It's hard to recover when you have those type of losses.
Right.
And, it's just showing right now. So Peterson, A++ matchup for him this week.
In a AFC East showdown, Miami travels to the Meadowlands to take on the Jets. Daniel Thomas little ankle injury. Not expected to miss the entire season, but will be out a couple weeks if anyone cared. Geno Smith should miss a couple weeks. He's just sitting out a couple plays. Not the sexiest of fantasy matchups here. Out of the running backs on both ends, Lamar Miller, Chris Ivory, Bilal Powell. Who do you have more faith in this week if you need them to come through for you during that playoff push?
That's a tough one. I'm going to go Lamar Miller. With Daniel Thomas hurt, Lamar Miller should get more touches, especially some catches out of the backfield. I don't trust Bilal Powell or Chris Ivory just yet on anything.
For me, I'm going to go with Bilal Powell just because Lamar Miller has let me down so many times.
Yes.
And I like the matchup for the Jets running backs. Miami's given up the 5th most to opposing running backs. I feel like Rex Ryan's really going to try and establish somewhat of a run game with one of those guys, and Powell being the benefactor, show more towards later in that loss last week. So,
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, owners of a 3-game winning streak, traveling to Carolina, who are owners of a 7-game winning streak? 8-game winning streak? I don't know. I can't remember the last time the Panthers lost. Gutted one out in Miami last week. Quarterback Mike Glennon, last 2 weeks, week 11, 87% completion percentage, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Last week, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Is this the week against that really tough Panthers defense where Mike Glennon comes back to earth?
we already had a go-around against them once. It didn't fare too well. So,
It's true.
Panthers tops in the league against opposing quarterbacks. I can't see Mike Glennon being a productive fantasy quarterback this week.
I think I'll have a solid week, but he won't be as consistent as he was the last 2-3 weeks. I think he might have 200 yards, 1 touchdown, maybe 1 or 2 interceptions.
Anybody on that Buccaneers offense that you see can... Tim Wright had a decent game against the Panthers.
He did.
Somewhat in mop-up duty.
I like Tim Wright this week, but I mean, you're going to start Vincent Jackson regardless. As far as Rainey, I would hold off on him still.
New England travels to Houston to take on the 2-9 Texans. Even though Houston's been pretty solid against the pass this year, over/under 3 touchdowns for Tom Brady this week.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna go with the push.
Push.
Yeah, I'm going push too. 3's like right there.
We saw on Sunday night's game against the Broncos, no one could hold on to the football. Stephen Ridley looks to be the one most affected by his fumbleitis.
Right.
LeGarrette Blount fumbled as well. Shane Vereen really still a wild card. Mostly he lined up at receiver a ton last week.
Yeah.
Break down the New England backfield for me if you can. I don't know if we have the equipment or whatever necessary to do that, but
Peter.
can you break down the New England backfield? What do you envision over the next few weeks it playing out? Because there's a lot of bodies in that backfield.
Yeah. I just think Shane Vereen is, well, obviously in PPR formats, he's a running back too, but I think Vereen holds the most value to be consistent week to week as far as yards, catches, possible touchdowns. Ridley, he's going to get a touchdown here and there, but if he fumbles, he's done.
I think he's fumbled pretty much every week.
He does, yeah.
So, Fatal 4, whoever's got the hot hand, it's not always the case in that backfield.
Yeah.
So, you never know. Like Jerry said, Shane Vereen is probably the guy who has the most upside in PPR leagues, and even in standard leagues, because he's going to get a ton of looks out at receiver. So, Shane Vereen is probably the guy you want to own if you do have any of those backs.
He did get a goal line carry too, Vereen. He got stuffed
He
twice.
did. He did. He got.
At least we know with Vereen, there's one thing we do know is that Vereen will get catches. He will be involved in some way.
Coaches trust him. That's
He
the
may
best
not
thing.
get 20 carries a game, but you at least know that they're going to try and get him the ball. Had a ton. Brady looked to him a ton on
11
third down,
targets.
Yeah.
especially on third down in key situations.
7 catches, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
So that's 15 in the last 2 weeks since he's come back from his injury. Atlanta travels to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Just going to throw it out there. Been riding this guy pretty hard all year.
Ride him, Steve.
Had the bye last week. Maybe nursed his injury a little bit. Atlanta 28th in the NFL, giving up 130 rushing yards per game. Bounce back week for C.J. Spiller. What do we think?
I hope so. It's up to the coaches. I hope so. I'm going to say yes.
My chips are in on CJ Spiller this week.
There it is. C.J. Spiller, Nice plus matchup this week. So look for some production there, hopefully. St. Louis travels to San Francisco. San Fran fresh off their Monday night victory in D.C., where they just absolutely tore apart Robert Griffin. Zach Stacy left last week with a head injury. Benny Cunningham stepped in, 109 yards and a touchdown. What do we think about Benny Cunningham in his first NFL start?
It's not for sure if Stacy's going to miss the game. They're still up in the air. So.
All right, assuming we have a read on Stacy
Yeah.
from a performance standpoint. He's been solid for the last 4 weeks.
Right.
4+ weeks. What do we think if Benny Cunningham is thrust into that role? What do we think about him and his prospects against that 49ers defense?
I would temper your expectations. Last week St. Louis played Chicago last week, who's been giving up the most points to opposing running backs over the last 3 weeks. San Francisco is really good against the run. They held out for Morris to 52 yards. I don't like the matchup at all. So if Stacy doesn't play, I wouldn't start Cunningham unless you're in like a 12-team league and you need a flex play.
Colin Kaepernick really sharp on Monday night, 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. We see that continuing this week against the Rams?
I would hope so. He still scares me a little bit the way he doesn't look off defenders. He's still one read, zone in on that guy and throw that guy, and hopefully he doesn't get picked off, but Michael Crabtree might be stepping back in the lineup. Don't know what type of role he's going to play at first. I would expect a limited role right off the bat and up until closer to playoff time. So, temper your expectations on Crabtree moving forward. Just coming off of that kind of injury, he's not going to be 100% right away. But if you have him, if you're lucky enough to own him, hold on to him if you make the playoffs.
San Fran handled the Rams earlier on in the year in St. Louis, but St. Louis has been solid as of late. Should be a really good game in the 4 o'clock hour. Denver travels to Kansas City, and if you're saying to yourself, didn't these two teams play each other like 2 weeks ago? They did. Julius Thomas missed last week against New England, but hopefully he'll be back this week to take on the Chiefs. Last time these two teams met, not much happened from a fantasy perspective. Peyton Manning only 1 touchdown. Demaryius Thomas had a nice game, 121 yards. But on the Chiefs side of the ball, other than Jamal Charles, is there anyone on this offense in this matchup that intrigues you whatsoever?
Dwayne Bowe's just a big hit or miss. Other than that, I like Anthony Fasano. He's been coming on as of late. I kind of like him as a sleeper this week.
Is that a foreshadowing?
That's a foreshadowing. I'm foreshadowing.
Man, stay tuned, folks.
Oh, boy.
What about Decker? He's having a little rough.
Yeah. I'm very concerned about Eric Decker. He's on all my teams.
I mean, that's what happens when you get your own show on E.
Yeah.
If you have other options, did you start Decker?
He really shouldn't have his own show. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's not interesting. I mean,
God bless you, Eric. Cincinnati travels to San Diego, fresh off the bye, playing the Chargers, who went into Arrowhead and dropped 41 on the Chiefs last week. Ryan Matthews got hurt last week. No, this isn't a clip from the 2012 season. He did get hurt in Arrowhead. Phillip Rivers on fire, 27-39, 392 yards, 3 scores against the Chiefs. A couple of questions here. In a PPR format, who do you like better this week? Giovanni Bernard off the bye or Danny Woodhead, who had 70 total yards and 2 scores last week?
Well, if Matthews is unable to go, I'm going to go with Woodhead. Just for the simple fact he's been consistent all year out of the backfield. He's been 5 to about almost 8 catches each week, so it's Woodhead for me at a PPR. But I do like Bernard also this week.
So you're not threatened by the presence of Ronnie Brown?
Unless he's going to throw some laterals, run the Wildcat, have a flashback, no.
He's dead to me for life. For life.
I think both of them will have a good week, but I got to give the slight edge to Woodhead.
What about Keenan Allen, who had 9 catches for 124 yards, or A.J. Green, who last time we saw him had 2 catches for 7 yards in Week 11?
Well, he got Joe Hayden.
He had Joe Hayden against him, so.
But I like both guys this week, moving forward.
Yeah, both of them should be good.
In an NFC East matchup, the Giants take on the Redskins on Sunday Night Football. Who has more yards on the ground this week? Alfred Morris, who was held to 52 yards by the 49ers on Monday night, or Andre Brown, who's been really solid since coming back from his injury, 127 yards against the Cowboys last week?
Andre Brown, 100%. Washington's not too good against the run. That's Andre Brown.
The last guy you said 100% with last week, you put the hex on him.
It was Ben Tate, yeah.
The
But not
100%
really
curse.
Ben
The
Tate.
100% crew. So just because you said that, no, I'm going to go with Andre Brown also.
What the f is up with RG3?
RG3 needs to get benched. Kirk Cousins needs to come in and play the rest of the year.
We don't have enough time.
He played good. Played good in spots.
Made a whole special for
He
RG3.
needs the rest of the year to be off. He needs to
He's really only looked sharp in like hurry up
fourth
situations.
yeah, in the fourth quarter.
There
But
was
he
a
just-
stat last night on Monday Night Football. They said they've trailed more, like they've spent more time trailing opponents than anyone else in the NFL.
There's another crazy stat that he fumbled in
23 times in 23 games.
That's
That's
crazy.
RG3 needs to get it together.
But we don't have enough time
I mean, I
for
don't
me
think
to
it's,
tell you what I want to do to RG3.
I don't think it's all RG3 though. I mean, I know.
Oh
What
no,
I
they're not a
said.
good team.
No, they're just not a good team. I mean, look, Shanahan got what, $28 million for 5 years now, 6 years now. What has he done for the Redskins?
And when you
Nothing.
start making return commercials, we see how it goes for other athletes. I mean, it doesn't fare well for you.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry, Derek.
guys just need to stop
Sorry,
making
Derek.
commercials when they get
I
hurt.
can't believe
Yeah.
you bring up Derek at this time right now. It's so sad.
I had to do it.
And on Monday night, the New Orleans Saints travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. The first time in over 20 years, two teams with these records have met this late in the season. 9-2 New Orleans and 10-1 Seattle. A lot of suspensions in Seattle's secondary, leaving them a little depleted.
Yeah,
Brandon Browner, they said, missed the whole year.
yeah, substance abuse.
I feel really bad for them.
Wait for it. other than Jimmy Graham, who do you see on the New Orleans side of the ball looking to step up and take advantage of some of those holes in the secondary?
My man Kenny Stills.
Kenny
He's
Stills
ready.
going to bust one this week
He is when they're trailing. That's what I think.
when they're trailing.
When they're
Interesting.
trailing, I think New Orleans is going to be behind in this game. Seattle's a tough place to play. I think they put up points early.
I think they're used to the noise, though, playing in New Orleans.
They are.
But you get them outside the
I think it's supposed to rain that day too, so
Huge effect.
they're not.
New Orleans not exactly stout against the run. Over under 150 yards from Marshawn Lynch under that Monday night spotlight.
under.
It's a little under that.
I see
Maybe like
Percy
one-
Harvin being more
130.
involved in the backfield.
Hopefully
That was my
Percy
shit.
Harvin's
What,
in.
do you start Percy this week?
Not yet.
No.
No.
I
Do or
would.
die, make the playoffs. Start Percy.
I would.
I think we might get a flashback of the original beast mode from that playoff game a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's all for the matchups this week. We'll be right back with our legends and jerkoffs for Week 13. Welcome back, everyone, to the Week 13 edition of the Best F and Fantasy Show, live from the basement. Follow us on Twitter at Best F and Show. Check out the website, bestfandfantasyshow.com. It's time for our Legends and Jerk-Offs for Week 13. Start us off.
My first one, Victor Cruz should have a bounce back game against Washington. He always has a good game against Washington. If it's Victor Cruz this week. All right, my next one, AJ Green, coming off a bye. Last time he faced Joe Hayden, he did nothing. Should have a good game, bounce back game this week. My last one, Michael Floyd against the Eagles, suck against the pass. Floyd, Fitz, both going to have big games.
It's a great segue into my legend, Larry Fitzgerald, who we talked about earlier, absolutely torches the Eagles throughout his career. So we're going to ride the hot hand with Fitzgerald. Then we're going to go to Rashad Jennings, who we also talked about. Dallas giving up the most fantasy points to opposing backs. Keep him in your lineup. And then, Nick, can I get you on this one?
Yeah.
Flynn.
I can't.
Flynn.
I can't do Flynn.
Flynn.
I can't Flynn.
Flynn. All right, we're going to go Matt Flynn Thursday, Thanksgiving, Thursday special. 3 touchdowns. Calling it right now.
Who are the Jerk-Offs for Week 13?
I'm going to go Vincent Jackson against Carolina. Carolina shut him down once already this season. Expect him to do it again this week. Carolina's home this time, so coming off of God knows how many wins they've had in a row. Should be a hot crowd in Carolina. Big win for them this week. Next we're going Andrew Luck, repeat offender on my jerk-off list against Tennessee. Didn't have a great matchup against them the first time around. Expect the same result this time. And we're going with Eric Decker against KC. We talked about Decker's problems. A lot of E specials he has coming up. Great show. I'm sure it draws a lot of ratings, but Decker's struggles continues this week against the Chiefs.
All right. My first one, LaShawn McCoy. Hate to do it to him. Arizona's pretty stout against the run. They've been really solid. Don't think he's going to be that productive this week. I think they're going to be passing a lot. My next one, Marcus Colston. Seattle gives the third fewest points to opposing receivers. He's been solid lately, but I think he gets shut down this week. My last one, Cecil Shorts gets the Joe Hayden effect this week. Not going to do it.
And the thing I'm most thankful for this year is the Who the is that sleeper of the week, everyone's favorite segment. And this week, the Thanksgiving edition is sponsored by Sony and the PlayStation 4. Really want to thank our reps at Sony for sending over these new systems. They're incredible. Jared, how good is Call of Duty in next generation format here?
It's unbelievable.
The controller really fits to your hand. It's awesome.
They even hooked us up with the gaming eyewear. It's unbelievable. I can't leave the screen.
Unbelievable. Really got to thank.
Can't stop staring at you, Jared.
Really got to thank Nicole over at Sony for sending those over. Really appreciate it.
We'll send her a basket. Nick, can you get on that?
They also had our PlayStation engraved at Best Evidence. I thought that was pretty legit.
Oh yeah, we should probably put that on Twitter.
We should.
Can we get Jared? Can you put that on Instagram for us?
Yes, I will.
I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Sony, the best in next generation gaming.
Xbox.
Jared, who are your? You want to do yours first? Because Jared's got too many.
Yeah,
I don't have too many.
I'm gonna go with Ladarius Green. I'm all about the big bodies this year. Guy's an absolute freak. Another athlete. I don't expect a big week out of Antonio Gates again this week. So we're going Ladarius Green to steal a touchdown from Gates owners this week. Suck on that, J-Pro.
That's it?
That's all I got.
Because
I can't.
While you're talking Ladarius Green.
Because I can't deal with.
I just want to say, for the Dynasty Leaguers out there, this is the perfect time to go out, pick him up. He's a good investment. When Gates retires, this guy's going to be one of the next elite tight ends. You'll see. But anyway.
Why not?
All right, my first one. He's actually the originator of the Who the F is that sleeper, Sei Arigitutu. I think he's going to catch another touchdown this week, but we'll see.
In San Diego is going to catch a touchdown.
We'll see. My next one, Ace Sanders with Cecil Shorts shattered by Joe Hayden. Ace Sanders should have a big game. My next one, Anthony Fasano. Denver's not too good against tight ends. He scored last week. I think he'll have another productive week. And my last one.
Wait for it.
My last one.
I'll give you $5 if you could pronounce his name right.
Philip Lutzenkriegen.
He did it!
There's no.
Sponsored by Sony!
Lutzenkriegen?
There's no Kriegen at the end.
Is he a curler or is he a
If you need
player?
to make the playoffs this week, you need to start somebody. You guys.
I'm telling you, crack.
The Kruger.
Lutzenkriegen.
Is it Kruger?
All right, tight end for the Rams.
Lutzenkriegen.
He's going to do something.
I'm going to pass it along to our producer, Nick Specca, who has all the questions from Twitter that have been raining in all day.
Well, that was a who the hell is that?
Who the hell?
It's a little club on that. But our first question comes from at Team Rainrod. He wants to know. I know. I don't like this up.
Excuse me, Rainrod?
Rainrod. It's a PPR league. Need to make the playoff push. Please pick please pick two. Roddy White, James Jones, or Percy Harvin. I don't know about that.
No, I think it's James Jones 100%.
What do you mean,
This
You
matchup.
got to pick two.
Oh, okay. James Jones and Roddy.
Roddy.
Really? You guys know Percy?
Percy.
No, I don't trust Percy yet.
Percy. Roddy.
Carmen, what do you?
Percy.
Okay, Carmen saying Roddy and Percy. I got it.
You just said.
I'll go Percy and James
What?
Jones. So now you're really
What?
Wait a second.
What do you mean?
Wait.
What did I say? That's a plus matchup for Roddy.
No James Jones.
No.
You just said Matt Flynn's going to kill it.
Doesn't mean he's going to score.
Alright, that's great. Our next question comes from at Established Dominance 23.
That's actual.
PPR league. He said, please pick one: Alshon Jeffrey or Eric Decker.
Jeffrey.
Alshon.
Jeffrey.
Alshon.
Okay.
Play Minnesota.
Our next question comes at a personal favorite of all of us, NYC Money. It says half PPR league because that never changes. Need 2 running backs. Spiller, Fred Jackson, or Gio.
Spiller and Gio.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also, 2-part question. I need 2 out of these.
What?
No, I said these.
These.
Boykins or Witten. Why do I need 2 then?
There you go.
He said,
Best.
thanks, happy Turkey Day. Our next question comes from at GN Zimrick. It's probably German, Joe. You might have to say this one. But he wants to know if Marino plays. I need number 2, our running back. Gio, Lacey, Vereen.
Is it a pepper league?
It's German, so I don't know.
I like Vereen this week. It's a PPR, right? You said
He didn't say it's German.
it's
Yeah,
Vereen.
Lacey don't have a great match.
He doesn't have a great matchup. I like Vereen as upside this week.
Detroit
And
front.
potentially high scoring game.
It's
if
not hard to
Houston-
believe he can only start 1 out of those 3
Yeah,
guys.
that sucks. Because
God bless him.
he's saying if Marino plays. So if Marino doesn't play,
It's Vereen.
Gio and Vereen.
Jam Vereen. That's all the questions we have. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving, good turkey bowl. I'm gonna pass it over to Steve.
Thanks, Nick. Want to be the first to wish everyone a happy and healthy Thanksgiving from the Best F and Fantasy Show. Good luck. Enjoy yourselves. We'll see you next week.
Godspeed.